Hola amigos de Wine News TV Puerto Rico, estoy en Fine Wine Imports, la tienda de Carlitos Montalvo, ese genio que trae solamente vinos deliciosos a Puerto Rico. Estoy con Tina Clark de Cliff Lede. Cliff Lede. You told me, you corrected me. So you guys are celebrating 20 years, and before we get into the celebrations and the reason why you're in lovely Puerto Rico again, let's get into the story of the winery, how it came to be, the story of Cliff, if you can share with our audience.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for letting us join you today. Cliff Lede is a very young winery. 20 years seems long in our lifespan, but in Napa Valley, that's a very young winery. You know, I mean, you look at Martini and Mondavi and all the early starters. We're sort of babies in the valley. So
Right.
while we feel like it's a big anniversary, we've got a long way to go with our wine growing and our making our wines better and more beautiful. So it's an exciting time for us. Cliff is actually a Canadian gentleman. His business was in Alberta, Canada, and when he was doing his business in Alberta, he had a relationship and a mentor at a small little wine shop. I love this story because I think everyone that loves wine has a story. How did you fall in love with wine?
An epiphany moment.
Who was your person? How did you
How did the wine bug and when
how
did
did
it
you
bite?
get bit by the bug?
When did it
Exactly.
bite? Yeah.
So that happened to Cliff at a little wine shop outside of Alberta, and the wine shop owner offered him wines, beautiful wines from all over the world. And after tasting these wines, he really fell in love with Left Bank, Bordeaux.
Cab
I
base.
love it.
Okay.
Today, maybe more Right Bank.
Okay.
It goes with age.
Yeah,
subtlety.
You evolve, you change.
Correct.
Our
you
palate
change.
changes over time.
Correct. So he loved Left Bank Bordeaux, and a few years later, he thought, I love this enough. Maybe I should consider doing something in the business.
And he had done well with his other side of the business, right?
Correct, with the business in Canada.
Yeah.
So he was on a trip to Napa Valley. He was a marathoner back then, and it was February and 70 and sunny, and he's out for a jog,
Yeah.
and he said,
Maybe I should purchase
this
something.
might work for me.
Yeah.
And a few years later, it came to fruition. That's when we first purchased the winery. It was a different winery at the time. It was 40 acres on the estate, and today we're 60 acres on the actual Cliff Lede Vineyards estate.
Right.
Making these we make a lot of wines, but these are really our flagship wines
Flagship
of
wines.
Cliff Lede
We have
Vineyards.
a Sauvignon Blanc, the 2021, and we're gonna get into them in a bit. What's if you were to explain in maybe a minute? That's I guess we're way too short for the story, but philosophy, mission. What kinds of wines can consumers and our viewers expect if they see one of these bottles at a restaurant, a supermarket? What can they expect?
Well, what you expect from these wines is lower alcohol.
Good. I love that.
Yes, Chris Tynan, our winemaker, is very specific about making sure not only are the wines approachable, but they're acceptable for food. We respect our chefs, we respect our food, and he makes the wines in that way. So when you have a lower alcohol wine, they have a little higher acid.
Of course.
So when you have a little more acid in the wine, it's just more complementary to food.
Right.
This might be like a Chicago thing or a California thing, but these are not porch pounding wines where you just they're thoughtful.
like a milkshake, like a chocolate shake.
Correct.
Anesthetize.
Correct, or bubble gum or
exactly.
whatever. So
these are wines that, in terms of the wine, the acidity will brush off the fat of the food, or will pair with a lemon or the vinegar, if you will. Sometimes it's important to have the acidic component to even help you with digestion. And in terms of the red, I am looking at the alcohol content and I'm loving it because it's not overblown. All right, let's get into the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
Cheers. It's
Cheers.
just a
Salud.
pleasure to meet you. Salud. Oh,
I learned a few words on my trip. One was salud.
Salud.
That's an important word.
It's an important one. Oh yeah, I love very bright. Nothing exuberant. Is restrained. Is elegant. This is gonna open up. It's ready to be enjoyed now. But I think that in the glass, in the next 30, 40, 55 minutes, it'll open up even more.
Well, and when you have lower alcohol and more acid, the wines tend to last a little longer,
Yeah.
like white Burgundy and
Right.
white wines from Bordeaux. And so these wines, though they are from Napa Valley, actually age quite well. I wish we made enough to keep it in stock to see, but we are actually out of this vintage at the winery, and we'll be shipping the 2022 in probably late April, early May. But I think what really makes this wine special, after I take a sip,
I love that it's green, but not in an unripe way, but in an elegant way. Obviously, you have that white fruit. You have a little bit of florality as well, which gives it a clean sensation to it. It's like opening, the window of your hotel in Tuscany or in Napa and smelling all sorts of like herbs and clean air, right?
that's the Semillon probably.
Yeah.
So we do quite a bit of Semillon in this blend. We have about 9 or 10 in the 21 of the Semillon. And then Chris sources a
9% Semillon.
9 or 10.
Yeah, it's a good amount. It's a
I have
good
to call
amount,
them Chris,
and brings a bit of that richness and that sort of
Right.
muscles, if you will.
Correct. Sauvignon Blanc alone can be a little too nervy,
Yeah.
a little too grassy. So when you add that Semillon, it adds a little more weight and body to
Of
the wine.
course.
And then there's another grape that Chris sources from the Childs Valley called Sauvignon Vert. And he insists vintage after vintage, just putting a kiss of that in the wine that,
This is
again,
lovely.
has
This is
beautiful,
lovely. Dina.
citrusy
I'm loving
edge.
it because the Sauvignon Blanc will obviously be the spine, but that Semillon is like the chunky, the meat to it. And then that other Sauvignon Vert.
Sauvignon Vert. That adds a little little more of the nerviness to the wine.
Okay.
But again, this is a wine it's really meant to be complemented with food. Ceviche is great. You talked about, citrus fruits. So anything that, in a lemon or lime or orange, citrus marinade or creamy pasta. The acid is so strong.
But there's also a little bit of that generosity from the Semillon. There's a little bit of honeysuckle, beeswax, but very, very tame. It's like an undercurrent beneath that sort of lovely tropical white fruit and the florality. But there's this richness. Not oily at all, but it does have a bit more texture than 100% Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Exactly. It just, instead of going down your throat, it sort of sits on your tongue.
Yeah.
And melts down the sides. It's a beautiful wine, and Sauvignon Blancs can be very simple.
Yeah.
And Sauvignon Blancs can be very complex. And
Delicious.
this is a complex wine. We do stainless steel. We start in stainless steel, and then we move to neutral French oak, and then we finish in the concrete eggs, which are there. It's an inert object, but the way the egg is shaped is what helps the wine move around and kind of process at the end.
There's a trend now to use those eggs because they provide some qualities to the wine. All right, let's get into the Cabernet 2018 Stag Sleep. What can you tell me about this? Looks gorgeous, of course, and I've had it before.
Cheers again.
Salud.
Salud.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, very Bordeaux.
Pinch
very
me,
Bordeaux
pinch
stuff.
me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So this is why Cliff's in. Not only is Cliff in Napa Valley because of this wine, he's in Stag's Leap District. Stag's Leap is the smallest AVA in all of Napa Valley. So a lot of wine collectors, specifically of Napa Valley, really like to lean into Stag's Leap because not only is it the smallest AVA, so they make less wine than other appellations within Napa, but the pockets of microclimate are just amazing there. So he was lucky to make it into Stag's Leap.
Love the nose. It's like an American in Paris, like Fred Astaire dancing in Paris. It's amazing because you got all of that lovely cassis and the olive, and you got the herbs and the black currant. You got all of that takes you a bit to left bank Bordeaux, but then you have that generous, warm California sun that provides that richness to it, and the nose is explosive. There's a little bit of mint, menthol freshness.
Yeah, the back of your tongue.
And then from the barrel, you got that lovely sort of like espresso roast and some cocoa, if you will, like salted chocolate.
You hit it spot on when you said, California but French. So I like to refer to this in simple terms as French in style with a kiss of California sun. So it has all the grapes, the traditional grapes of the left bank, but you just get that nice, that little extra warmth that brings out a little bit more fruit, which
Love
makes
it.
Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley more approachable than a
And you
Bordeaux.
know what? And you know what? It's savory because it's not disjointed. Some wines are just massive. Think Shaquille O'Neal, a beast. This wine is big, but it's Shaq on stilettos, walking on the
Yeah.
runway, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe an ugly picture, but with grace. There's power, but there's finesse, and there's prudence.
That's a great word, prudence.
Because you can definitely enjoy this wine in spite of its structure. You know, it's not the same going 200 miles an hour in a Ferrari, which is this, than going in a Fiat. No disrespect to Fiat, but you'll feel the speed. This is rich, opulent, sexy, but so balanced.
Not cloying and
Not
overripe.
Balance. Balance is the word. Acidity, the alcohol, the fruit, the oak, everything is in place, and it's a baby. Like we're committing a bit of a felony here. It's a baby.
It is a
little-
baby, and we're shipping our 19 now. But I think what really contributes to the sexiness of this wine is that Chris will, vintage after vintage, make sure it's not really Cabernet centric.
Yeah.
So this particular vintage, we only have 76% Cabernet
And
Sauvignon.
what's in the rest? Merlot, Cab Franc.
Like 13 Merlot, Petit Verdot,
but
Cab
love
Franc,
Petit
little
Verdot.
kiss of Cab Franc Malbec. But then in our 19
You go
vintage,
full five, the five Bordeaux varietals.
full 5 in this. But then the 2019, I think he might have left out Malbec.
I gotta try it. To
It's
make
all
sure that I
about-
taste it.
I-
Remember to send me a bottle. What a
On
lovely,
the way.
lovely wine. Do you happen to know? And if you don't know the answer, don't tell me. The price for this in Puerto Rico? Price around what?
The retail price,
Yeah.
probably 80. I would say
Definitely.
probably around 80.
It's definitely worth it.
Retail, and
I
this
was
is
gonna
more
say a
about
buck. I was gonna say 100, but it's
Usually
fantastic.
wines from this appellation are. So
Oh, of course,
this
of
is
course.
I hate the word value when you're talking about fine wine in a
Yeah.
superior
Well,
appellation, but it's
it's kept a reasonable price. I've had wines that do not taste twice as good but cost twice as much.
Exactly.
Right. Very good wine. So before we wrap up, two things. The market of Puerto Rico. What's your take when you come down and you interact with people?
Oh.
How would you characterize our local consumer? Is it curious? Is it savvy? Is it how would you describe the Boricua consumer?
well, I will tell you, I have not been down on the island for over 15 years, and the last 72 hours have been crazy, unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy good.
You pull up and you walk in and you expect something, and then walls of wine and
Yeah.
beautiful wine
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Spain
Yeah.
and Bordeaux and Napa Valley.
Best of the best.
The best of the best. And I really think that this is the time for Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And I think a lot of wineries like ourselves, we're going to step up and make sure that Puerto Rico is as important as all of our other countries and our states, up in the northern parts of the United States.
Thank
so
you for
it's
that.
been so exciting.
And last question. So what other labels could consumers find? Because I know that there are other wines out there, and I just want to let them know that we're not tasting everything because of time reasons. But if they see other wines with your logo, with your labels,
Right.
no, it's not fake. They make other wines. What
We
else do you
do.
guys make?
So we do make, Puerto Rico does have some of our winery only labels that we were able to trickle in little bits, so you won't see much of them, but we do a lot of single vineyard wines. We have a Napa Valley Cabernet from the Tocolon Vineyard, which is a very special, highly accoladed
Yeah.
vineyard. We do single vineyards from Calistoga, Diamond Mountain. All of these wines we make that are wines that are appellations are wines that are really Chris's artistry, and we sell at the winery only. So if you do go to our website, Cliff Lede Vineyards, you'll see there's a lot of different wines and different styles, but this is what really...
And for whites, only Sauv Blanc.
Only Sauvignon. We do have a white wine, a brand new white wine called Marla, and it's done in the white Bordeaux style. And
So Mr. Cliff is a Bordeaux guy.
he likes it.
It's not me.
And Burgundy with Fell. That's
Yeah,
our
of
winery in
course.
Anderson Valley.
I'm gonna link the Fell interview that I did 3 years ago.
Yeah. But Marla is Cliff's daughter.
Oh,
And when he finally got her and her husband and kids to move to Napa, he said, I'm going to name a wine after her. So
Well, I'm going to try that one.
We
When you
have
send
Marla.
the 2019 of this, send a little bit of
Yes.
Marla to taste. Thank you, Dina. You've
Thank
been amazing.
you.
You've been great. Wish
Thank
you
you.
nothing but the best.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
our next interview will be in Napa Valley. I got to
Yes.
make the trek over there. I've been to Spain, Italy, wine country, and I have not been to dear good old US
Well,
of A.
we're going to have
I'm
them.
an American citizen. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Salud.
Salud. Mi gente, busquen estos vinos, son maravillosos aquí en Fine Wine y donde los vean, el logo de Carlos Montalvo comunica calidad, comunica buenos precios y comunica relaciones personales con las bodegas. I was saying that Carlitos has personal relationships with the wineries. He's a friend. Like he makes sure that Puerto Rico gets the best of the best. Así que mi gente, suscríbete al canal. Gracias por ver y salud.
Salud.